Hey everyone, Kyle Sullerud here, and I put together this quick little presentation to talk about CallRail and talk about why I've switched over to CallRail for my call tracking and recording for all my clients' AdWords campaigns. Now I made the switch about a month ago. I used to promote a software called CallTrackingMetrics, which I'll get to shortly. Funny enough, CallRail just sent an email like an hour ago that they just started a referral program of their own. So I was able to update this presentation, add that link. You'll actually benefit by using my link just as much as I will. And that actually wasn't part of the plan. I was going to start recommending CallRail anyway, but now that they've started this referral program, I'll give you my referral link. So let me first talk about why you should track calls at all. So if you're not using any program right now to track calls, I think that's a huge mistake. Basically, if you're using a software like CallRail, you're going to know which keywords, which ads, which locations, etc. are generating leads from your campaign. So when someone clicks on your AdWords ad, they land on your website, they're going to see a tracking number specific to them. So when they call that number, you will know where that call came from. So if you see a certain location, if you see a certain age or gender demographic, if you see a certain ad that is generating more calls for you, well, then you'll know that you can put more money towards those things in your campaign. That's how you optimize your campaign, is by tracking these conversions. With CallRail, you can also know which calls came from AdWords or from other marketing sources. So you can go in and listen to all these calls and know that they came from AdWords. They'll all ring to your same phone number, so you might be getting calls from other sources. But when you go actually listen to the calls, you can say, okay, that call came from AdWords. And this can be important for a number of reasons. One example is if you're getting a lot of bad calls coming in on your AdWords number, maybe you're getting a lot of wrong numbers or something like that, well, now you'll know that there must be something wrong with the campaign, and you can look into why that might be and start to make some changes that'll help you get some better calls on your AdWords number. So in general, your tracking calls just to know how profitable your campaigns are. You can see within your campaign how many calls were generated. You can then go listen to those calls and know exactly who those callers were, which ones booked appointments, which ones spent money with you, and so on and so on. So call tracking is really the only way to do this, otherwise you're just guessing. So regarding my switch to CallRail, I've used a couple different systems in the past. The first thing I ever used was called Analytic Call Tracking. This is a self-hosted system, so I basically had to get this software and then upload it onto my own website using my own hosting plan. They had pretty good pricing. I basically used it because it was the only thing I really knew about at the time, and I liked the idea of having the software hosted on my own domain. For some reason, I thought it would be cool if my customers thought that this was like my own software, and if it's hosted on my domain, I can make it look like it's actually my software and I'm not just leasing it from someone. That really doesn't matter, but at the time, in my mind, that was one of the reasons that I liked analytic call tracking. But in all honesty, it was a pretty complicated system to use, and eventually I went out looking for a different system. Specifically, I wanted to find something that wasn't self-hosted. I didn't want to rely on my own hosting plan for all the call tracking. I wanted a system that was hosted by a different company that knew a lot more about what they were doing. So I switched to CallTrackingMetrics.com. And I actually I found all these points in a post that I had made at the beginning of the year. Someone was asking about call tracking systems, and I gave them these reasons why I used CallTrackingMetrics.com. So it was the only system that offered auto transcriptions of the calls, meaning when these calls come in, the computer transcribes them so you can read the calls instead of listening to them. It was the only system that integrated with Swido reporting. Swido is another system that I used to use for reporting on my AdWords campaigns to my clients. I don't use that anymore either, so that really wasn't a big deal. And I actually think CallRail integrates with Swido right now too. I'm not certain, but anyway, that was the reason at the time, was that they integrated with Swido. And then it was easy to set up multiple sub-accounts, so I could give each of my clients their own account so they could go in and listen just to the calls for their own company. And then the pricing for CallTrackingMetrics is good. And because it wasn't missing any features I wanted, I went with it. Okay, the main selling point for me at that time was the auto transcriptions and the fact that it integrated with Swido. And I've been recommending CallTrackingMetrics for a while. They have a referral program too. It's actually a lot better than the CallRail referral program. So hopefully that tells you that I'm not making this video just to make any money on this referral thing. I'm really trying to explain why CallRail is the superior system right now. And I'm promoting it even though their referral program is not as good as CallTrackingMetrics. This is what CallTrackingMetrics looks like when you log into the system. The interface, you can get used to it, but it is pretty complicated, and a lot of the how-to stuff is hard to find. I actually had to Google most of the how-to stuff when I was looking. It's not easy to find within their website. You actually need to go to Google and Google CallTrackingMetrics.com how to blank. Okay? But that's what that looks like. So why did I switch to CallRail? The big main reason is that they have a seamless AdWords integration. This is new this year. They finally got this up and running. Basically what it means is conversions are reported in AdWords. So once you link AdWords and CallRail, if a call is made through CallRail, that'll be reported back to AdWords as a conversion. Like what I was saying before, it'll tie that conversion to the specific click. So the keyword, the ad, the location, whatever data is tied to that click, it'll show up that way in AdWords. Also, the keywords are reported in CallRail. So when you're looking in CallRail and listening to your calls, you'll see next to the call what was the actual keyword that someone typed in that brought to that call. Okay, great feature to have. If you can see if you're getting more tire kickers from a particular keyword. People are calling, but they're not really converting, right? They're not making any purchases with you. That's valuable information to look at. Or if there's a particular keyword where almost everybody who calls is becoming a customer, that's also very valuable information. So it's really, really nice to see those keywords right next to the calls in CallRail. To integrate this and set it up, you really just have to copy and paste one little piece of code that you get from CallRail, and you paste that into your website. I know it's a pain point sometimes to get to set things up on a client's website. Sometimes you have to get a hold of their developer. You have to get the login information for the client's website and try to do this coding to get things installed. With the CallRail code, it's so simple, almost anyone can do it. You just send the client this one little string of code, and they or their web developer installs that on the website, usually in the footer of the site, and you're good to go. Some other features of CallRail: you get unlimited company accounts. So you set up a different account for every client that you're managing, and then you have unlimited user accounts. So you set up an account for a client, you give that client their own login information, and they'll be able to log in and listen to the calls just for their company. CallRail also has call transcriptions. So I haven't actually used this feature yet because I have someone else listening to the calls for me right now, so it hasn't been a huge there hasn't been a sense of urgency for me to actually see how good these transcriptions are. But if that's important to you, they do offer transcriptions now, just like CallTrackingMetrics does. They have great pricing and great support. I had a question the other day. They got back to me right away. Their support is great. The pricing, I believe, is better than CallTrackingMetrics. It starts at just $30 a month. If you're using this just for your own business, that's probably all you're going to pay, because that includes a lot of phone numbers and a lot of minutes. And their interface is really easy to navigate. A lot easier, a lot more intuitive, and a lot more user-friendly than CallTrackingMetrics. This is what the typical call log looks like. You can see it shows the tracking number, the caller's number and name, which I've blocked out, the city the caller was in, and then the keywords. So if it came from if someone clicked on the ad and landed on the website, it'll show them the keywords that were typed in. So I encourage you to go check it out now. You can get a 14-day free trial to set it up, and then there are plans starting at $30 a month. If you use my referral link, you will get a $50 credit after 3 months. So you go through the 14-day free trial, and then after that, if you stick around for 3 months, you'll get a $50 credit. So do the math. Instead of $90 for your first 3 months, it's basically $40 for your first 3 months. You can't really beat that. And if you're getting a higher plan, so they have Pro and Elite accounts, if you're going to be using more tracking numbers, more minutes, the Pro plan is $130, including tons of numbers and tons of minutes. And if you sign up for that and stick around for 3 months, you'll get a $150 credit in your account. My referral link, you can go through callrail.adleg.com. And again, I want to stress, I'm not sending you here to make referral bonus. It's really not that much, but they just sent me this link about an hour ago. So I threw it in the presentation, and you can go check it out for yourself to see if this is something that you want to get started with.